Greetings. Welcome to Cyber Focus, your source for international business information. I'm your host, Ryan Craven, and our guest today is Professor Michael Hamburger. Michael is a professor in the Department of Earth and Atmospheric Sciences at Indiana University and focuses his research on seismotectonics. He is also the coordinator for the Diplomacy Lab program at IU and is going to share with us a bit about the program and the value it creates not only for our students, but also for the State Department. All right, Michael, thanks for spending some time with us today. And I'm excited to hear a little bit more about Diplomacy Lab. And you said you had the opportunity to bring that to IU and tell us a little bit about that, would you?
Well, just by way of background, Diplomacy Lab is kind of an unusual program. It was developed by the State Department about 7 or 8 years ago when John Kerry was Secretary of State. And the basic idea is for the State Department, which of course is involved in a whole giant array of international policy issues and doesn't have the time or depth of expertise to dig into these issues, to take advantage of the expertise that resides at America's academic institutions and to kind of outsource, or as they say, course source their some of their research projects, where faculty and students at now about 30 different American universities that are part of this program can participate in a project in collaboration with an office or an embassy at the US State Department to dig into a particular research topic that could range anywhere from something scientific or technical to something economic to a large-scale diplomatic or international relations issue. And in the course of a semester, provide some useful feedback to the State Department to help it conduct its work. So this program came to IU in 2016. IU essentially applied to become part of the program and now has a memorandum of understanding with the State Department by which IU faculty are permitted to essentially apply for a variety of Diplomacy Lab programs for the following semester, and then they and their students can engage essentially as consultants to a client at a State Department office or embassy to work on these research-related problems.
Yeah, and I was taking a quick look through some of the different projects and courses that I used in the past and that are coming up, and there's a really wide range of just topics. Is there any that you're particularly fond of or kind of stand out as just really interesting or key highlights for you?
Well, they are all over the place. We've had faculty from public health, from the media school, from informatics, from the sciences, social sciences. Each one is quite interesting. For example, there is a informatics class that has worked on with the State Department office on problems of misinformation that's spread through the internet in Southern Africa. There is a geography class that's worked on the environmental and social impacts of large hydroelectric projects in the region, in the Southeast Asia region. I have worked on a variety with my students on a variety of projects related to energy policy and environmental issues in now 3 different countries where our clients were embassy offices that have some specific environmental or energy concerns. One of the most exciting just happened this year, where the informatics program brought in their Informatics 101 class with about 500 students to contribute to a web resource that the State Department is trying to provide that enhances information about female and minority scientists to kind of broaden the world of communication about American contributions to global scientific enterprise. And so our beginning level students actually contributed something of value to the State Department's efforts overseas.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it really is an interesting way for the students to get some hands-on expertise or experience with putting some of their research and their coursework into practice, but getting the opportunity to work on a project that ties directly to real world examples that impact. Again, the State Department is putting these forward, so obviously somebody somewhere wants to know more about this stuff.
Yeah, it's apart from the details of what the students work on, they get an extraordinary experience kind of serving as consultants. And so in the course of a short, 3-month period of a typical semester, the students have to identify what their client, in this case, the Office of the State Department that they're working with, is interested in, what their needs are, and also what their capabilities are to provide that deliverable. And to make good on it by the end of the semester. And it's kind of a powerful learning experience and a great sense of responsibility. I think that our contributions are helping out and critical to American foreign policy. And of course, for a lot of our students, this opens up some interesting thoughts about career paths that they might not have thought about earlier. So we have informatics students or geology students who are suddenly thinking, perhaps there's a place for me in foreign policy. And of course, international studies students who realize perhaps that some technical expertise in the sciences or social sciences might be valuable for them to pursue their interests in international policy. So it's a great learning experience for the students.
Yeah, I was actually kind of wanted to follow up on that piece with how many of these students, perhaps, and you might not know the question or the answer, but how many of these students is, their experience with Diplomacy Lab, their first real exposure or foray into, kind of that international or global perspective?
I can't answer with too many specific statistics, but I do know that, for example, several of the students who are involved in my class working on an energy project with the embassy in Malaysia a few years ago, a couple of the graduate students from the O'Neill School, through connections that made through the embassy, were able to work out an internship working on rural electrical development in Malaysia. There are students who have ended up working in Washington with consulting organizations that have been involved in the kinds of foreign policy issues that they've been working on as undergraduates or as graduate students. And I can just see it when we have visitors from the State Department. There are a lot of questions about opportunities for career paths. So I think as the years pass, there will be more and more of those direct connections.
Yeah, and this actually kind of ties into one of our more recent cyber projects has been doing a career series on careers with an international or language and culture bend, specifically trying to highlight those ones that you might not normally think of that would benefit from having another foreign language skill. And those are kind of ranging all over the place from social work, family counseling. You have some of the global ones that you would normally think of, right? Global sales and communications and whatnot. But
right.
This sounds very interesting from kind of highlighting that same idea, but from a more kind of scientific or like technical approach.
Absolutely. So I'm in fact an example of that. As an undergraduate, I studied Russian studies and geology, and to my immense surprise, it turned out there was an opportunity to blend those two areas of academic study, and I ended up spending several years doing earthquake research, which is now my specialty, starting in the former Soviet Union and working on research topics that involve making use of my language skills. By the same token, I think students who are studying foreign languages may find that adding to their arsenal of tools from other fields is going to help open doors to career opportunities for them.
Yeah, absolutely. we've been doing some work kind of abroad with, not necessarily abroad, but helping small businesses break into export markets, or at least get started on that process of how do you do that. And we were working with a group up in Indy, and one of the things that they had mentioned is they were working with some German companies or groups that were trying to get into Germany, and identifying that need of having technical and engineers that can speak technical German. So it's not even just the language side of it. I think there's a growing need for, you can speak it conversationally, but can you speak it to the scientific or the technical terms that are needed?
Yeah. So I think that some of that cultural ability, in addition to the linguistic ability, is very critical. And of course, in our case, our work is being done from here in Bloomington, but in connection with our counterparts at embassies. And of course, that's at the heart of what embassies and consular work involves, is being aware of all of the complex cultural, political, and economic landscape in another country. And it's one of the big learning goals of Diplomacy Lab, is for students to see their technical contributions in the context of this kind of cultural exchange.
Yeah, absolutely. Would real quick, do you know offhand or a ballpark figure of about how many students have had the opportunity to go through Diplomacy Lab up to date?
So it's still a fairly new program. I think it's now just in its 5th year. There have been something on the order of about 700 or 800 IU students who've been involved in something like 20 classes across 5 or 6 different schools. So a pretty broad swath of students from different disciplines have been exposed to this kind of international experience.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the so again, like the process of for an IU faculty member to look into this is, there's just a running list of potential topics that you have access to, and you would essentially be creating a new course or modifying an existing one to meet those needs?
So basically, once each semester, around this time in the fall and in the spring, and then a similar time mid-fall semester, we get a list of projects for the following semester. It's listed on our website, diplomacylab.indiana.edu. And faculty can essentially bid for those projects, perhaps against other schools around the country. And if we are selected, then that could be either incorporated into an existing class or developed as a special seminar or special class the following semester. And so far, it's been a growing commodity here at IU, and one we hope is going to continue to grow.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I can certainly appreciate the perspective of, not only are we sharing IU's expertise and students and resources with areas that could use those and benefit from that, but also providing opportunity for those students to get real world practice, develop some professional skills, and get some of that international culture.
Absolutely. Well, good.
Well, Michael, thanks again for taking the time today and tell us a little bit more about Diplomacy Lab. I'm extremely excited about it and hope to kind of spread that message a little bit and find maybe some future opportunities to collaborate, or at least try and send some more faculty and students your way.
Super. Well, thank you so much, and looking forward to our next conversation.
Yeah, thanks again. That's it for this edition of Cyber Focus. For future topics or suggestions, please drop us a line at cyber@indiana.edu.